Hi everyone, it's Hannah Sakini, the registered dietitian and nutrition educator here at Local Matters. I just want to say welcome and thank you for tuning in to another video. Today's video, we are going to be doing a cooking demo of one of my favorite Local Matters recipes. This recipe is called the Southwest Salad. And not only is this recipe so delicious, but it is jam-packed with so many different vibrant colors, which means it's loaded with vitamins and minerals, which is perfect because I love to get the most bang for my buck when it comes to food and when it comes to salads especially. So we are gonna go through all the ingredients that we're using today, all the cooking equipment that we're using today, as well as some knife skills before we jump straight in. So today we are going to be needing a can of corn. I've actually used frozen corn. You need a can of some sort of bean. I have used the black-eyed peas today. Usually I use black beans, but I wanted to get a little bit adventurous. You need 1/2 an onion. This onion is teeny tiny, so I'm actually probably gonna use the whole thing. You're gonna need a red bell pepper. You're gonna need some cilantro, some olive oil, red wine vinegar, salt and pepper, and then some cumin to taste. So I've already washed my hands, so I am all ready to go. Some of the cooking equipment that we will be needing is a chef's knife. You can find any kind of chef knife, at your local store, your local grocery store, or even online. I know at Local Matters we use chef knives that we have bought from Amazon, and they're wonderful. And what's really important about our chef knife is that we're keeping them sharp. When we're using a dull knife, we tend to put a lot more pressure on the knife to cut down, and that's where mistakes happen. So having a sharp knife allows us to go through our food easily without a lot of pressure to prevent any cuts, scrapes, injuries, anything like that. I also have a large mixing bowl to put all the goodies in, and I have a mixing spoon. That's it. That's all you need. You don't need to use any kind of heating utensil. There's no heat in this recipe, which is awesome. It's so fast and so easy. So let's go ahead and just jump in. The first step is to throw your corn and your beans right into our salad bowl. So I am going to use my spoon to make sure to get all the corn. And like I said, today I have chosen to use frozen corn. Now, another awesome thing about this recipe is that you can use any kind of produce you want to use, whether that's fresh, frozen, or canned. So a lot of the times I have used canned corn in the past. The only thing you want to be mindful of is that we are rinsing our cans and as many times as we can, buying the cans that say no salt added. That is key because in these cans there tends to be a lot of sodium in them, a lot of salt in it. So always buying those no salt added cans when we can, and then rinsing out our cans before we put them in any of our food. But like I said, this is from a frozen bag of corn that I just let thaw in the refrigerator. Next, I'm going to be putting my beautiful black-eyed peas. Now these did come from a can, and unfortunately I wasn't able to find the no salt added version of my canned black-eyed peas. So I opened up the can, threw them in a colander, and I washed out my cans. Now washing out those canned beans will only really get rid of 50% of the sodium. So that's why it's so important to get those no salt added when we can. It's okay if you can't, just rinse out those cans. 50% less is better than, nothing. So I just mix those up together. Next thing we are going to be doing is cutting our red onion. Now, I don't know about you, I might be a little crazy, but I love to cut onions. And that's because here at Local Matters, I actually learned a really awesome trick to how to cut an onion quickly and how to cut them all the same size, because I think that's really important. When we're cooking food, we always want our produce to kind of be roughly the same size, especially when we're heating things like sauteing them or cooking them, because we want them all to cook at the same rate. But with the salad, no one wants to, take a bite and have a big piece of red onion that they have to chew. So we want all the red onion pieces to be diced to the same size. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So with our knife, we are going to do the pinch and the wrap. So you can see I am pinching with my thumb and my first finger at the base of the knife, and then I'm wrapping around my handle. This allows for more control. Another knife skill is that we're always keeping our blade, the top of our blade, on the cutting board, and we're just rocking back and forth. Just rock back and forth. And another thing when it comes to cutting red onions is that, or any kind of produce for that matter, is we're always trying to look for that flat surface. Because when we're dealing with a roly-poly onion or roly-poly pepper, and we're trying to cut it down, we may injure ourselves, we may lose control, it's less stable, and we're trying to reduce the amount of injuries as much as possible. So I'm just gonna cut this right there, and that made it flat. I made a quick little flat surface. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going from root to tip and cutting right down. As you can see with my hand, I did a bridge. Ooh, that was loud. See, that was with a lot of pressure. This knife might not be as sharp as I would like it. And I just cut down straight. So now we have two flat surfaces, and they both have a root and they both have a tip. Now we are going to peel our red onion. It's important to peel your red onion just to get that peel off. And a tip at the grocery store when we're buying onions, don't ever buy the onions that are already pre-peeled, because they cost more. And you're gonna have to peel that first layer off anyways, because everyone's touching all up on that first layer of your onion. Another tip is when we're at the grocery store is that those already pre-diced onions cost about $2 more than an onion that's not been diced. So once you learn how to dice an onion, you don't have to go and buy the pre-dice and pay that extra $2, Always trying to look for ways to save a few bucks when we are headed to the grocery store. So now we have our onion, it's nice and peeled. We are going to keep the part with like the crazy roots together at the top, and we're using our claw, and we're actually making slits from the root to the bottom to the tip, but we're keeping that root together. So we're never cutting fully from the root all the way down. We are getting pretty close to the root, but we are not cutting through the root. As you can see, I swapped my hands out as to protect my hands. Next step is I'm gonna take my flat hand, put my palm on top, and I'm just gonna make an incision, and that's so that my dice are a little bit smaller. And then with my claw, with my pinch and grab, you're just gonna go down the red onion. And before you know it, you have a beautiful diced red onion. When you're getting close to the end, I like to flip it and finish it off. Alrighty, so there's half of our red onion. And when we spend money on our chef knives, if you ever do go out and buy that fancy chef knife, we want to keep it as in the best quality as it can. So when we are moving things around our cutting board, use the top of the knife instead of the bottom, the sharp part of your knife. This will protect your blade. So we're just gonna go through and do our second onion. I gotta do it quickly because I can feel the tears coming on, but remember, in the kitchen, it's not a race, it's supposed to be fun. So take your time. When it does start becoming a race, that's when accidents happen. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I am already tearing up. That's okay, because we are already done with our red onions. And hopefully that won't interfere with the rest of the recipe. I hope I will be able to see for you guys. So I'm just adding that red onion in. And like I said, I used a full onion because it was pretty small. And I like a lot of onion in my salad. So if you're not an onion person, You don't have to add onions. If you like the yellow onions instead, you can add the yellow onions instead of the red. This recipe is a framework. Guys, I'm so sorry. I'm already tearing up. Give me a second. We're gonna get through this together. Alrighty. Can you see? I'm actually crying. Usually I don't cry. All right. It's okay, no worries. We're gonna continue on. We are gonna power through. So next we have our red bell pepper. Once again, adding a beautiful new color to our salad. Another thing when it comes to onions, you can always buy them frozen as well if you prefer them frozen. If you don't know when you're gonna get to those onions, you can always buy the frozen because it lasts a whole lot longer when you throw them in the freezer. You can also buy fresh, dice a bunch up, and then pop it in the freezer and use it when you get to it. You know, putting things in the freezer make it last a lot longer. So whenever I have an onion and I need to chop it all up, and I know I'm going to use it in further recipes, I just chop it all up and throw it in the freezer. All right, so next is our red bell pepper. Now there's many ways to cut a bell pepper. I'm going to show you the way that I cut it, but if you have your own special way, no worries, you can keep your way. So once again, I created that flat surface so it can stand up on its own. Using that pinch and wrap, I am just going to go around this bell pepper, just like that, cutting off little panels. There we go. And the last little panel. So now I'm left with the top and all the seeds and a little bit of we got a little bit of the seeds left. All right, sorry guys, I'm making all this noise. It's those red onions made me crying. So now we have beautiful little panels of our pepper and we are just gonna dice it. So before we're gonna dice it, we're gonna cut it into thin strips. That's called julienning. Now this part of the red onion, this is the vein of the red onion. And that part does not have a lot of flavor. It also doesn't have a lot of vitamins to it. So you can either keep it in or you can take it out. That is completely up to you. But remember, what colors are food is the vitamins and minerals in it. So when something's like that is white, you can tell that that doesn't have any nutritional benefit to it. Alright. So I'm just cutting, using my bridge. There we go. So now I'm gonna take these julienned peppers and I'm going to dice them into small pieces. Okay. Always protecting my fingertips. Okay. Almost done. Using the back of the knife. I know sometimes I do use the blade of it, but I'm trying to remember to use the back to save my blade. All right, and the very last, this was that first piece that I cut up. I am going to dice that as well because we want to use as much as the pepper as we can. All right, so now that is good to add. All right, and I'm gonna go get a napkin for myself really quickly to help clean up this mess. Alrighty, so I'm cleaning up my cutting board just a little bit because the next step is to cut up our fresh cilantro. Now, I have fresh cilantro here, and I personally prefer fresh because I use a lot of cilantro in my cooking. I use it almost every day and in almost all of my recipes. So I like to have fresh because I know I can go through it. You can also use any kind of powdered form of your cilantro. So I'm going to cut off some cilantro. And if you have little ones at home, this is a great way to get them involved in the cooking is that they can pick this fresh cilantro leaves and they can tear it with their hands. If they're old enough, you can teach them how to use a knife. So now we are going to cut our cilantro. And the thing about cutting up fresh cilantro is the more you cut it, the less flavorful it is. So you kind of want to cut it down a little bit so you're not getting big chunks, but you don't want to cut it too much. All right, so let's add that. Beautiful cilantro. Once again, adding more flavor, more color. Beautiful. And in this recipe, it's really great because you can add whatever kind of produce you like. So if you want to add, maybe a cucumber would go great in this, or any kind of tomatoes, you are more than welcome to add whatever you like. You're also more than welcome to subtract things. So if you don't like corn, that's okay. You don't need to add corn. Another great thing that you can add to this recipe would be some sort of grain. So I would add probably like a quinoa to this, or a brown rice would be a really good addition. And it gives you that whole grain to go with it. So after we add our fresh cilantro, it is time to make the dressing. And this is a very quick dressing. In this dressing, all you need is some olive oil. You need 3 tablespoons of olive oil. 1, 2, 3. And then to 2 tablespoons red wine. And once again, if you don't like red wine vinegar is what we're using. You can use any type of vinegar. So if you like apple cider vinegar or white vinegar, both of those work. Okay. Then we are gonna add one of my favorite seasonings, cumin. And it's 1 teaspoon of cumin, but I'm gonna add a little bit more because I like it a lot. I am freehanding this, so I do not have a teaspoon. And the last things you're gonna add is some salt and some pepper. All right, let's mix it up. Let's see what we got. Oh, I can already smell it. It smells actually really, really good. And I would probably add a little more cilantro to it, but it looks delicious. Alrighty, guys. How's it look? It's pretty, isn't it? It's so colorful. Let's taste it. I'm dropping it all over the place. Okay. It's so good. It's so fresh. And even though I use canned ingredients, it's like I used all fresh produce. It's so good. I'm going to add a little bit more cilantro, and then I'm going to play myself up a big bowl of my Southwest salad. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more cooking demonstrations as well as Food Matter videos. Thank you guys.